4 generations of one family. Their lives and causes reveal 150 years of American history.
I'm John Adams. I am counsel to the accused.
Wait there. You mean you've agreed to defend those murderers of our people?
I have agreed to defend Captain Preston and his men. The jury will decide if they're murderers. But I will do anything under the law to secure their acquittal.
Have you turned your coat to red, John?
Of course not. I'm no friend to the Crown. But under the law, the accused men are allowed the counsel of their choice, and Preston and his men have chosen me. They must have a fair trial.
John, of all the men I know in Boston, you have the least love for the English soldiers.
Sam, we may call this killing a massacre in Boston, but the other colonies will say that Boston is in a state of anarchy, that mob rule holds sway here. Unless these soldiers are given a fair trial, we will lose all the outside support we've gained. We may need that support in any future conflict with the Crown.
Mr. Adams! This way.
John Adams, successful lawyer, subject of George III of England, firm believer in British law. Because of that belief, he has just taken a most unpopular case. The defense of a group of British soldiers accused of killing 5 men in an unarmed crowd. Boston's citizenry, seething with resentment over presumed injustices by the British Crown and Parliament, call it a massacre. The soldiers call it self-defense. An unpopular case, a dangerous case, unwanted by John Adams, who has no sympathy for the defendants, but believes strongly in their right to a fair trial. He intends to see that they get it.
Prisoners will hearken to the verdict as this court has recorded it. You have been found not guilty of murder by this jury and are discharged by this court herewith. All save Matthew Kilroy and Hugh Montgomery, who have been found guilty of manslaughter.
My lord, my clients pray for the benefit of clergy.
Granted. It will be taken forth to be branded on the thumbs so that they may never ask for mercy of this court again. The jury is dismissed with the thanks of this court. Court is now adjourned.
All rise!
Well done, Mr. Adams.
You truly think so, Mr. Quincy?
Indeed. A good day's work, I warrant. 2 of our clients escaping with nothing more than burned thumbs to show for their ordeal, and 6 discharged as innocent.
A sentence of death against those soldiers would have been a foul stain on the honor of
John,
colonial
you've
justice.
convinced the jury of that fact. Don't squander your persuasive art on me.
I use no art on that jury. Nothing more than facts and evidence.
Mr. Adams, we've won our case. It's time to wish our clients well and go home.
Wish them well. I wish the lot of them in hell.
But you believe them innocent.
Innocent of firing wantonly into a crowd, yes. But guilty of being British soldiers, sent here to enforce the Crown's will.
Cold, Mr. Adams? Why not put on your red coat?
I dare say it's warmer. It's lined with the King's gold.
Stand aside.
This court is reserved for patriots.
Then it is open to me and my kinsmen. Come along, John.
Don't they understand I was only doing my duty?
Yes, but is it necessary to do it so well? Never fear, the verdict will be forgotten in a month. All they'll remember will be those brutal soldiers who massacred the innocents on King Street.
Sam Adams, you know damned well what happened. A Boston mob, drunk with whiskey and rebellion, attacked a lone British soldier before the customs house. That mob was...
Shh. will be remembered as martyrs, to be remembered whenever men speak of liberty.
When will you learn mobs are not fit to rule kingdoms?
But surely they can overthrow them.
How dare they accuse you of supporting the crown?
They are patriots, Mrs. Adams.
What's a patriot, Papa?
Mary, this is no time to ask your father questions.
No, my dear, it is a fair question. It deserves a fair answer. Take equal quantities of civility, fear, fury, and gratitude. Add revenge, malice, envy. Infuse all this into the brains of a brutal, surly, ugly man. And there you have your patriot.
But Mama told us you were the greatest patriot in Boston.
Johnny, now, you get ready for bed now.
Mama.
I have medicine for your mood, John. A new shipment of books arrived today from England.
What, more books?
The law books you ordered.
Oh. Oh, Cook's Works. What's this? £2? Oh, I must learn to borrow books like other lawyers.
You are not other lawyers, John.
No, they build estates while I mope about with plaguey books. Filling my head with useless bits of law.
Mr. Adams, rest now. You have no cause to condemn yourself. You have done what your conscience demanded.
Indeed, and we are the poorer for it. There's a grievous fault in me.
John, you have no faults. Foibles, perhaps, but no faults.
What foibles?
Well, you will spy catastrophe in every event.
Well, if I do, it is because it lurks there. Abigail, you have not seen what happens. Whenever I try to serve the people of this town, my wishes prove impotent, my efforts fruitless. We have struggled for years to make a life here. If we stay any longer, I shall be ruined. I shall sink into contempt and obscurity. You will perish for want.
John, we prosper here. We may not be rich, but we do not owe any man.
I shall die of Boston.
Are you ill?
Today in the court, I felt faint. I got on the street and I felt a stab in my chest. I could not get my breath.
You must take to your bed at once. I'll send for the doctor.
No, I want no doctor. I know my ailment. It is the bad air of Boston. Only my farm can cure me.
Very well, then. We shall return to Braintree.
Oh, we're home, Abigail, we're home.
Papa, may I help you carry the wood?
You finished your lesson so early, Johnny?
Can I help you work the farm instead of lessons?
Oh, so you want to be a farmer like your grandfather?
Yes. All that Latin prepares me for is to be a Roman. And since I will not be one, of what use is it?
Well, it trains the mind for law.
I hate it.
I want you to be a man of learning, Johnny. I fear in our country there is a miserable prejudice against men of education.
Papa, I make a poor figure at Latin. My thoughts keep running after play and trifles.
I'll tell you a secret, Johnny. When I was your age, I hated my Latin, too.
Did you truly?
But my father was anxious for me to go to college. So when I told him I did not like study, he was quick to answer. Very well, John. If Latin grammar does not suit you, you may try digging ditches. That meadow yonder needs a ditch, and you may put by your Latin and try that.
You were lucky.
Well, at first, I thought it was a marvelous change. But in 2 days, I discovered that digging ditches was harder than Latin study. At last, I got my courage up to ask him if I could go back to my Latin.
And he agreed?
Oh, he was glad of it. And if I have since gained any distinction, it was owing to those 2 days' hard labor in that abominable ditch.
Papa, is there nothing but Latin or the ditch?
Not in this life, Johnny.
John, when are you going to stop dancing this ridiculous Braintree jig of yours? Prancing back and forth in your farm in Boston, in your wanton pursuit of riches.
Mr. Hancock, did you invite me to a public tavern to insult me?
No, to draw you out of your cowardly retreat.
You dare call me a coward because I will not join in your boyish pranks against the crown. Some of us did not inherit great fortunes from our uncles. We are not free to spend our days as tavern rebels. I have a law practice to attend to and a growing family who need food
John,
and clothes.
don't imagine you can escape your troubles by abandoning ours. How can you practice law in town or country after this?
What's this?
More bitter news from London.
What, another tax?
Far worse. Our judges are now to be paid by the crown rather than our own
And
legislature.
that will make them the king's tools, interpreting our laws to suit the crown. And soon no man in Boston will be allowed to piss without permission from Parliament.
Well, our people will never tolerate this.
See what Justice Brattle writes here. He claims that a judge paid by the crown would be more independent and free the colonies of needless expense.
Oh, Brattle is an ass. Any judge who accepts the crown's money should be impeached by our legislature. There's precedent for that in our English common law.
Will you write that in the Boston Gazette?
No.
But you know more law than
I am under no obligation to publish my every thought for the world.
Mr. Adams, now surely your conscience will demand that you
Mr.
publish an
Hancock, do
opinion
not speak to me of conscience. I am 37 years old and the father of 4 children who depend upon me for their future. I own nothing but my house and land. I have a mere 300 pounds in savings, not much for my labors. I must gallop after every circuit court from here to Maine to scrape up what little business I can. I'm obliged to travel light, so I leave my conscience safe at home in Braintree. Damn, Mrs. Adams, it's freezing cold. No, it's scalding. No choice between freezing and burning. Oh, damn. Mrs. Adams, I've cut myself.
I fear that trip to Boston has unsettled you.
Nonsense. You know what that imbecile Hancock said to me the last time I was in Boston?
What?
He called me a coward in a public tavern.
He didn't.
But he did. Accused me of dancing from Braintree to Boston, Boston to Braintree, with no thought but to get enough money to carry myself smoothly through the world.
Well, you mustn't dwell on the ravings of a lunatic.
Abigail? It was God's truth in the mouth of a madman. In all Justice Brattle's researches hitherto, we have not been able to discover either that the judges had their commissions for life or that the Crown had the authority to grant them for life. Judges are the servants of the people and should be paid by the people. But now the King proposes to pay the judges. I have bestowed more labor upon Justice Brattle's writings in the newspaper than was necessary to show their imperfection. I subscribe myself, yours, Justice Brattle's, and the public's well-wisher and very humble servant, John Adams.
How much is too much? A tax on tea should not foment rebellion. But to Boston citizens, King George's tax on British tea, petty token of authority that it was indeed too much.
Therefore, be it hereby resolved that the people of Boston refuse to pay for the tea which was deposited into the harbor by the marauding band of Indians.
A blockade of Boston?
That is the Crown's answer. We are to be cut off from all supplies and food, starved into submission until that damned tea is paid for.
Well, surely the other colonies will send aid.
Let us pray. But first, let us hope the other colonies understand our course.
Throughout America, in every town hall and legislature, brave men have spoken out in support of Boston, proving that we have not been isolated, that we are not alone. In each colony, representatives have now been elected to a Continental Congress to be held in Philadelphia this September. The purpose of this Congress will be to plan relief for Boston and a more lasting accommodation with Great Britain. It is my pleasure to announce the newly elected representatives from the colony of Massachusetts, Mr. James Bowdoin, Mr. Thomas Cushing, Mr. Robert Treat Payne, Mr. Samuel Adams, Mr. John Adams.
"2 months in Philadelphia. You've never been out of New England before.
Abigail, you need not remind me that I'm a provincial, unequal to the task ahead.
My dear, you mistake my words. I fear for your safety, not for your success. If only I could go with you. Mr. Adams, I must confess, my desire to go with you does not spring only from my concern for you.
No?
I know I have sufficient duties to prevent my roving, but... Oh, John, I have always felt a great inclination to travel. I'm curious to know what is valuable in this world.
Well, I promise you, I will write you everything I see and feel. You will see Philadelphia through my eyes. Would you be content with that?
I will be content with a small part of the world. If only it were free.
I did not know you were so passionate a patriot.
We women are obliged to conceal our passions from the world.
How fortunate for me that I'm not the world.
You must get some new clothes in Philadelphia.
Nonsense. This is a congress, not a fancy dress ball.
I hear the Southerners are quick to judge a man by his appearance.
Well, how would it look if I arrived wearing velvet and my fellow delegate, poor cousin Sam, appeared in his worn-out homespun?
Very well, Mr. Adams. I do hope Sam has the grace to mend and patch.
Oh, Sam is no more capable of looking fashionable than you are of looking pleased. Try to put a cheerful face on my leaving.
I fear I shall make a wry face like swallowing magnesia. But the dose will go down. Mr. Adams, I must confess.
You have already confessed your secret craving for travel.
No, John. I must confess my secret craving for you. You will be careful.
I will be careful.
I cannot lose my much-loved friend.
It can't be.
You like it?
Where did you get those clothes?
An anonymous benefactor wishing me to look prosperous in Philadelphia sent them round this morning. A real gold handle, did you notice?
I was too dazzled by the silver buckles on your shoes.
They also provided me with enough money to live comfortably in Philadelphia.
And you accepted it?
Oh, John, how could I refuse such kindness?
We've been voted our expenses. Now, to take money from a private
John,
citizen...
the delegates from New York and Maryland have great estates. The others are men of property. If we were to appear shabby, it would give a poor impression of Massachusetts. Nothing personal, John, but you really should mind your dress. Such things influence unthinking people. Drive on.
My dearest Abigail, there is such a quick succession of new scenes, characters, and events turning up before me that I can't keep any regular account. Philadelphia, for all its great size and wealth, is no Boston. The morals of our people are much better. Boston manners are more polite and agreeable. Our spirit is greater, our religion superior, our persons handsomer. We exceed in everything, except patience. Fortunately, this Congress begins tomorrow.
56 delegates, Southerners, New Englanders, radicals, and conservatives, in uneasy community to protest mounting injustice to their persons and their purses. Talk of independence comes from New England lips, but other delegates resist an irrevocable break with Mother England and their king.
Gentlemen, we must establish certain rules for voting before we begin. Now, it appears to me that the most equitable way to vote would be according to population. Thus, a sparsely settled colony would have a smaller vote in this Congress
As the
than a more densely
representative of the
populated
good
one.
people of Rhode Island, I must remind this Congress that small colonies have an equal stake with their larger sisters in any decision reached by this Congress.
The chair recognizes Mr. Patrick Henry of Virginia.
Mind what he says, John. I understand he's the Cicero of the South. More important, these Southerners could be our greatest allies.
Gentlemen, I beg you to put aside all regional differences. Why, since the Crown saw fit to negate the laws that govern us, I say that government is dissolved. Where are your landmarks, your boundaries, your colonies? No, we are in a state of nature. The distinctions between Virginians, Pennsylvanians, and New Englanders are no more. I am not a Virginian, but an American.
Thrilling, isn't it? No, frightening. 50 men, all strangers, jealous of one another, fearful, timid, skittish. I fear they will never adopt our cause as their own.
John, since Congress doesn't officially begin until tomorrow, allow me to make some friends from Massachusetts this afternoon.
How can you?
Watch me when the members take the vote on the opening prayer. Quakers here, Anglicans there, Presbyterians, Congregationalists, and all those Southern Episcopalians, all of them wanting that prayer in their own private faith. Lesson number 1. Since the Episcopalians outnumber the rest of us, and since we are not bigots, Massachusetts can hear a prayer from any gentleman of piety and virtue who is a friend of his country. I understand that the Reverend Duché, an Episcopalian clergyman, is such a man and among us. Therefore, I request we beg the Reverend.
Fight against them that fight against me. Take hold of shield and buckler, and stand up for mine help. Draw out also the spear, and stop the way against them that persecute me. Say unto my soul,
What's the matter? It's nothing, darling. Go back to sleep. It's all right. We now expect our sea coasts to be ravaged. Perhaps the very next letter I write will inform you that I am driven away from our yet quiet cottage. We are told for truth that the enemy is now 8,000 strong. Courage, I know we have in abundance. Conduct, I hope we shall not want. But powder, where shall we get a sufficient supply?
Indeed, General. If we ask only for our rights as Englishmen, if we support a plan for a firmer union with the Crown, we will dispel all fear of independence and assure the king...
Contempt!
Sir.
Mr. Dickinson, we cannot relieve the stress of Boston with such schemes.
And what do you think will happen if England turns all of us adrift?
We will float, sir, safely together.
Nonsense. Civil war would break out at once. One colony would seek to govern all the others, and that colony would come down from the north, like the Goths and the Vandals.
Surely you do not think Massachusetts would attempt to take over the leadership?
Sir, you cannot deny that your colony hanged the Quakers.
Over 100 years ago, in a time of ignorance
You cannot
and
hang
superstition.
Quakers like laundry and expect the world to forget it.
But ancient history has nothing to do with
Excuse me, gentlemen. Mr. Adams and I have a meeting with the Carolina delegation. John, how many times must I warn you that we must stand silent and let our Southern friends do the work? We are looked upon with too much suspicion to win in any argument with the conservatives.
Are we to hold silence while our wives and children are in danger?
Yes, if that is the best way.
Dearest friend, since you left me, I have passed through a great distress of mind and body. A violent dysentery has become our common calamity. Our little Tommy lies very ill now. There is no abatement of his disorder. Our house is now a hospital in every part.
My dearest, it is now almost 3 months since I left you. My anxiety about you and the children has been extreme. Your letters are delayed in reaching me, and I fear that mine do not arrive in Braintree until the news is cold and stale. This evening, I dined with all the gentlemen of Virginia in an elegant and most magnificent chamber. The meal, turtle soup and flummery, jellies, sweetmeats, trifles, whipped syllabubs, floating islands, a dessert of fruit, raisins, almonds. I drank Madeira at a great rate and found no inconvenience in it.
A general putrefaction seems to have taken place. We cannot bear the house, only as we are constantly cleansing it with hot vinegar.
I went to Mr. Powell's and had a most sinful feast again. Creams, jellies, cheese, wine, porter, beer. Everything which could delight the eye or allure the taste.
My dearest friend, have pity upon me, my beloved, for the hand of God presses sore. My dear mother, who came to see me every day when I was ill and take care of our little Tommy, took the disorder and died.
I cannot overcome my too selfish sorrow. All her care for my welfare endears her memory to me and heightens my worry for her loss. My heart is made tender by repeated afflictions. It was never a hard heart.
Poor Abigail. You will send her my condolences.
I would do better, Sam. I would send her myself. I'm going home.
But you cannot. Our work here is yet to be concluded.
What work? Raising a glass of Madeira to liberty while this Congress seeks new ways to comfort the king? No, I will not stay here another day.
John, tomorrow Mr. Galloway puts forth his humble petition. If approved by this Congress, it gives Parliament the right to tax us freely. And everything we have fought for in Massachusetts would be lost. John, we need your voice to defeat it.
My voice? They laugh at my Yankee speech, at my zeal.
Yes, they laugh, but they listen. John, you have managed the most impossible task. You are ridiculous, and you are respected.
Thank you.
John, we've led them further than they ever dreamed they would go. They voted for a strong militia, taxes for our own treasury, the king's judges disowned by this Congress, the acts of Parliament ignored by it. Now they wish to retreat. It is up to you to make them go forward.
Gentlemen, in every government there must be a supreme legislature. The regulation of our trade must rest somewhere. And it can, in truth, rest only with Parliament. We must admit this much in our petition to the King. To deny it is to light the flames of war. Be warned, gentlemen. It could rage for 20 years and end in our subjugation rather than our liberation.
Massachusetts and the town of Boston are now struggling in the common cause of American freedom. Mr. Galloway's humble petition would betray that struggle. And for what purpose? To placate a king and a parliament who have shown us they do not understand humility, that only resistance can reach their understanding. Gentlemen, if you fail to support our struggle today, it is not only the cause of Massachusetts which you will abandon, but future generations of Americans.
Well done, John. Galloway's plan defeated as we hoped.
One vote, Sam, not much of a victory.
Lesson number 2, John. In politics, a small victory is worth any number of grand defeats.
Well done, Mr. Reynolds. You've earned your smile today.
Mr. Henry, if I smile, it's because I'm going home.
From your letters, I thought it had all gone to ruin. Where's the drought you wrote of?
We've lately had a charming rain. The fences need mending, though.
What of the hired man? Why didn't he fix it?
Oh, Isaac is far too busy drilling in the militia. All the local men have caught the military fever. Even the schoolmaster has left to join.
Where are the children now?
Watching the militia drill. Oh, Mr. Adams, how sorely I have missed you. Pray tend the child carefully, Mr. Adams. She has toiled over this piece for weeks.
Is she any gift for music?
Of course she has not. She is our child. Though she may lack in music, she exceeds in zeal. Very well, Nabby.
It's called the Liberty Song, Papa. It's all the rage from here to Boston. In freedom we're born, and in freedom we'll live. Our rifles are ready. Our rifles are ready. Steady, friends, steady. Not as many.
Papa,
Honey, your sister is playing.
But there's a man outside who asks for Papa.
Come join hand in hand, brave Americans all, and rouse your bold hearts to fair liberty's call. No tyrannous act shall suppress our just claim, or stain with dishonor.
Abigail, our militia in Concord has fired on the king's troops, and the troops have run away. They were not rabble, Mrs. Adams. They were the best of men defending their homes, fighting as Americans.
God, what will you do, John?
Pray God I can join them.
John, you cannot. You are not fit to be a soldier. Your eyes are...
Please do not recall my every weakness when I now need all my strength. They will need organizers and lawmakers in Philadelphia.
Will the other colonies send aid?
Indeed, now they will send aid, not by the hundreds, but by the thousands.
The British will send 20,000 troops. They will hang everyone.
Please cease, Mrs. Adams. I am a warrior by birth. You are merely one by marriage. Allow me to carry all the family fears to Philadelphia. Abby, rest easy. If I am hanged, it will be in such a splendid company. Oh, Nabby, it was a lovely song.
Come in. I trust I'm not disturbing you.
No, not at all. I'm looking for a list of necessities that Mrs. Adams sent. Since the blockade, she cannot get them in Braintree, and she asked me to bring them home on her recess. There was threads, needles. Where's that damn list?
John, I do think there are graver matters before us.
Not for me if I come home without them.
You read this latest report from our army in Massachusetts.
Certainly.
Well, it's clear that old General Ward must be replaced. He continues to lose battles.
Indeed, but by whom?
I was thinking of putting myself forward for the post.
You, John?
But is there another man in this Congress who has fought so long and so well against the British?
John, it is one thing to lead a mob of Boston patriots in the streets, quite another to command an army in the field.
John, I know armies. I understand military tactics and strategy. I mean, I've read Caesar's campaigns of Hannibal crossing the Alps.
Hannibal? John, isn't it enough for you to be the president of the new Congress?
I'm wasted here, Mr. Adams. I must have command of our army.
Damn it, Mr. Hancock, we have a country to defend. This is no time to scramble after rank and honors like apes after nuts. Oh, here it is. Thread pins, that was it, pins.
Now, are you suggesting that I want this...
John, if we truly want this Congress to adopt our army in Massachusetts, shouldn't we appoint a Southerner?
Never. Our Yankee militia would refuse to take orders from a Southerner.
Well, they damned well better. We can't afford a Northern and a Southern party. Besides, the habit of command sits easy on those Southerners. They are raised from childhood to be
To
leaders.
hunt foxes, not Englishmen. John, I'm the only man here who was qualified to command. I've experience in fighting the English, an independent fortune, a talent for leadership, and the oldest friend of John Adams. I do expect that you will do your duty.
Gentlemen, there is great danger in procrastination. If Congress does not support our army in Boston, that army will disintegrate. Therefore, I propose that a new general be appointed by this Congress to assume command of the army in Boston. There is one man who is splendidly equipped for this high office. A gentleman of independent fortune, great talents, and impeccable character. A gentleman from Virginia, George Washington.
My dearest friend, this is Saturday, June 17th. The British began their furious bombardment of Charlestown. Now the town is in ashes and few survived the battle. Many, fearing that nearby Boston will soon be set afire, have fled the city and its terrors. As I view the acts of man in this time of undeclared war, I am more and more convinced that man is a dangerous creature. I fear that power, whether vested in the many or the few, is ever grasping. Like the grave, power cries, "Give, give," and the great fish swallow up the small. When I consider these things, I feel anxious for the fate of our people.
What is the Congress doing? When will they adopt our cause as their own?
Were Abigail in this Congress, they would take action.
We have wasted 3 whole days debating another damn petition to the king. Have they no sense, no feelings, no passions?
Most splendid speech, Mr. Adams.
I fear if we debate much longer, all of Boston will be in ashes.
Sir, you cannot expect 13 clocks to chime all at the same time. In a few weeks.
In a few days, Dr. Franklin, my family may be driven from their home. In a few weeks, this Congress may be forced to flee Philadelphia.
More speeches, Mr. Adams? Pray, is there no end to your store of rhetoric?
Mr. Dickinson, I will cease my speeches when you end your efforts to petition the king. All you do is encourage the belief that we lack the will to fight.
If you don't agree with our efforts to make peace, we will carry on in our own way.
Your petition is a measure of imbecility.
Fortunately, sir, you are not the final judge of its merits.
No, Congress must judge. And if they pronounce against me, I must submit. But if they pronounce against you...
They will not. I know the temper of this Congress. Believe me, Mr. Adams, should you ever speak out in a temperate fashion, I would be the first to applaud you.
Mr. Dickinson, the day that you applaud me, I will know I have said something very foolish.
Oh, my dear Abigail, you ask if every member feels for us. Every member says he does, but most feel more for themselves. Here you will find men who are timid, men who are selfish, men on whose calloused hearts nothing but money and interest can make an impression. Men who think a few barrels of flour are more important than 1,000 lives, other men's lives.
A certain great fortune and piddling genius, John Dickinson, has given a silly cast to all our doings. We should have had in our hands a month ago the foundation of a new government, to have raised a navy, established an army, but they continue to delay.
Mr. Dickinson, believe me, sir, this letter was not meant for public view.
I am certain of that, Mr. Hancock.
Mr. Adams was writing in private to his wife.
He never dreamed the letter would be captured by the British. Nor that they would have the cunning to publish it.
May I, sir? No mortal tale could equal the behavior of these delegates. Their fidgets, their whims, their vanity. Why, the ignorance of some of them would try...
Good morning, gentlemen.
John, how could you do this to us?
Mr. Hancock, I did not but write what we both know is true.
And you have destroyed whatever use you might have been to our people in this Congress.
Sir, the letter was a little intemperate.
Do you think these men will rally to the cries of Massachusetts after he has slandered them before the world?
Mr. Adams, when you do write the history of this Congress, pray put me amongst the fidgeters and the whimsical, rather than the vain and the ignorant.
Dr. Franklin, if I gave offense, none was intended.
Sir, you gave offense. And there is but one way to undo this wrong.
Apologize to the Congress?
No, sir. You must accept the apology of the Congress. Gentlemen, do not read the private letters of a man to his wife.
Here we have no more green tea.
Well, I've never tasted a better soup.
You look very tired, John. I fear all your work for the Congress has not been good for your health.
Well, your labors here seem to improve you. You know, you're very much admired in Philadelphia.
I am?
When Dr. Franklin met you on his way down from Boston, he was most agreeably impressed.
Indeed.
He said you were the most accomplished lady he had met in New England. Down, vanity.
Vanity? You think me vain?
Just so. I was merely jesting.
If I am vain, I preen before cows.
Abigail.
There's little else for me but this farm and its labors. Fences need mending, pastures must be plowed, the children's lessons look to, and food. Food bears so great a price if it is not made at home, it cannot be got. All I think about is grain. Grain? And where am I to get coffee, flour, pepper? And where are the pins I asked for? Children's clothes are a disgrace. I have a sore on my middle finger. I'm so lonely here I could cry.
Please.
Do you know, in the 13 years that we have been married, less than half of that time have we been together? I sometimes feel that my heart, like your clothes, will go to rags without love and attention.
For you.
Open it.
Pins. You remembered my pins.
Johnny, I trust you will study your French in my absence.
Yes, Papa.
I feel my lack of education every day, particularly in the French language.
Papa, must I learn it too?
Certainly, since you are to be a statesman like your brother.
Shall the baby perfect his French too, Mr. Adams?
It would be well if he mastered its rudiments. If we suffer their minds to creep and grovel in infancy, they will creep and grovel all their lives. Remember, set your attention on great and glorious deeds. Root out every evil.
Weed out meanness, scorn injustice, cowardice, falsehood, self-interest.
What?
That was in your last letter, Papa.
Papa, if we cannot go to Philadelphia with you today, may we ride upon your horse?
Very well. But be careful. Now be careful. They do like to sit upon my horse. It seems to improve their posture.
They like to play at being their great hero. General Washington.
This committee of ours must do more than just sit. We were appointed to declare for independence. Let us make that declaration before the British overwhelm us, sir.
Mr. Adams, the colonies will stand firm and united against their enemies. Rest assured of that.
I think not, Mr. Jefferson. Well, the volunteers from Connecticut will have no man from Massachusetts in their corps. Massachusetts despises all Rhode Islanders. The troops from New York and Pennsylvania would rather fight each other than the enemy. And your Virginians are no better. They refuse to fight beside freed Negroes. No, sir, we must declare for freedom and confederate, or we are lost, Mr. Jefferson.
I confess I'm confused, sir. Since you're known for your eloquence, why ask me to draft this document?
You've been a member of our Congress for about a year, and you have not yet said more than 3 sentences in public. But you have the reputation of a masterly pen. You write with true elegance, while I have none of it.
I disagree, sir. I've seen the power of your arguments when you debate in the Assembly.
Another reason for you to make the declaration. I have never held my tongue in public. When a man out-talks his opponents, he often ends up with enemies.
You have many friends here.
Oh, no, sir. I'm thought obnoxious. Were I to draft this declaration, it would be 3 months in revision. We do not have the luxury of time, Mr. Jefferson. You can write it in a few days, and we can win the vote within a month.
If ever a man deserved to write this statement, it's you.
You're quite right, Mr. Jefferson. But I beg you, let's stop all this discussing. Please, hesitate no longer, but begin your work at once. My dear Abigail, time has been given for the whole people maturely to consider the great question of independence and to ripen their judgments, dissipate their fears, and allure their hopes, so that the whole people in every colony of the 13 have now adopted it as their own act. This will cement the Union. You will think me transported with enthusiasm, but I am not. I am well aware of the toil and blood and treasure that it will cost us to maintain this declaration and support and defend these states. Yet through all the gloom, I can see the rays of ravishing light and glory. I can see that the end is more than worth all the means, and that posterity will triumph in this day's transaction. This day of July 1776 will be the most memorable in the history of America. It ought to be commemorated as the day of deliverance, from one end of this continent to the other, from this time forward forevermore.
The Adams Chronicles will continue tomorrow night at 10:30.
The original production of the Adams Chronicles and this special presentation have been made possible by the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, the National Endowment for the Humanities, and ARCO, worldwide producer of petroleum and petroleum products, as a tribute to the 200th anniversary of the American Constitution. ARCO, energy for today and tomorrow.